Hello everyone, this is the Jenkins Platform SIG meeting. Today we're on March the 11th, 2025, and around the table we have Mark Waite, Kevin Martins, and myself, Bruno Verhachten. On the agenda today, nothing groundbreaking. We'll see, we'll talk again, but shortly this time, about the end of support for Java 11. We'll talk about the container image updates for the Jenkins controller and agents. We'll see the work in progress on images and maybe say a few words about Java 25. Now, let's get started. So it's been a while now that Jenkins ended its support for Java 11. So why am I even talking about that? It's because even if the core has migrated a long time ago, we still have quite a few plugins still working with JDK 11 and even JDK 8 or 5. It depends. Nonetheless, we've been shipping weekly release, not depending on Java 11 anymore for quite a while. Same for the LTS. We are now with the second LTS, depending on Java 17, the 2.492.x. But nonetheless, there is still a campaign in order to update the plugins to JDK 11 and 17. The evolution is not as good as we would like it to be, but nonetheless, it's progressing. I don't know if that's big enough for you to see, but yeah, we can see that we are upgrading plugins to JDK 11 or 17. Most of the time we try to do 17. And some were using directly JDK 8. Some of them were not specifying JDK to use, just using the build plugin in their Jenkins 5, which means they were still built with JDK 8. So we're also dealing with those ones. And they were also the one without a Jenkins file at all, which means that they were not built on the infrastructure, but they were certainly built locally with JDK 8 on a maintainer's laptop somewhere, or maybe on another CI/CD software, but that's not what we are aiming for. So that's why you're also dealing with those ones. So it's progressing. It's getting better. But still a lot of work to do. Some of them have been migrated, I would say, manually, thanks to sweat and blood. Some of them have been migrated thanks to Open Rewrite. I think, Mark, you did quite a lot of them. Yeah, more or less. And some of them have been done thanks to the plugin modernizer tool, which is a GSOC 2024 project. And some of them have been done with Open Rewrite with some other contributors. For example, the strange-looking nerd, Daniel Kramer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so he's done quite a lot of them and also migrating them to JUnit 5. The Jenkins PR tracker. So this one is an ongoing effort aiming to track the progress. It used to be focused on only a few contributors. We were searching for the contributors' PRs, Valentin Delay, for example, or me, and then trying to find which one were the automated pull requests. Now we do the other way around. We search in the whole Jenkins CI organization and see which one were automated by the tool, whoever may have launched the tool on his command line. And it's still moving. We had to go from GH to GraphQL, then to Golang instead of Bash, but it's progressing. And unfortunately, I just did a major refactor earlier today, so the numbers are not right. This morning, we had more than 400 PRs. Now it's down to, but this morning, the numbers were right. Now they're not that right. It's pretty cool because it's showing us type of PR by type of PR, the requests that were open, if they are merged, if they have been closed, if they are, whatever. We even know the one that don't compile. And that's pretty, interesting because sometimes you just launch a campaign and you don't know if it worked or not. I know if it was not a massive campaign, I could have replayed all of them locally before firing up it, but so sometimes it happens, it just does not build. And this list helps us dealing with that. Some of the time it's just because the Jenkins file we provide is not used in the PR. It's a security measure, in fact, because anybody could put any harmful thing into a Jenkins file and then it would be played on the CI/CD. That's not a good thing. So that's why we are not playing it by default. But administrators like Mark, wait, thanks a lot for your help, by the way, help replay when these new Jenkins files are legit so that we can prove that our modifications are working. Whoa, what a long monologue. Mark, Kevin, would you have any insight about that?
No, what you're doing is an unofficial campaign that the concept has been attempted to be framed in the next thing on your list here, the Community Plugin Maintainers Initiative. So I love that you're test driving it. Basil Crow has test driven it. So the idea is, what can we do to improve the health of Jenkins plugins in an efficient way while still granting plugin maintainers autonomy? And I think it's a great thing. Thanks very much.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Mark. By the way, when can we expect, I would say, a final release of this document? No pressure. Just
it's a good question. I don't truly yet know, because I need to do some prototypes of implementations before saying that, hey, it's ready. And I think the silence that has greeted it with only 2 or 3 comments of any concern, and the way that they've been addressed, is a good message. It says the community's ready. So now it's just a matter of beginning the implementation and learning as we implement, right? It means I've got to provide a facility where we can correctly have repository permissions updater actually do the granting of permissions, and be sure that it does not incorrectly put them in as developers in the list. So we don't want every community plugin maintainer to become listed on plugins.jenkins.io as a maintainer of every plugin they've ever touched or might touch. So there are things like that we need to be aware of and be sure that they work well.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, because I'm a co-maintainer of a few plugins, and sometimes it's even difficult to cope with the number of automated PRs that are launched by Dependabot or Renovate or whatever. So if we were to become maintainers for all the plugins, that would be more than a full-time job.
Right, and that's not, that would be unwise. I think that's unhealthy for the community. So we don't want to do that. We granting permission is good, but listing you as an official maintainer of 2,000 plugins is bad.
I guess so, yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if we're done with that, let's go with the next subject, which is the container image updates for the Jenkins controller. So the 2.492.2 was released last week, but last time I looked, I think we did not have the right release. We just had a tag. I think that's still a manual thing you have to do, Mark, right?
Sorry, could you ask your question again?
Yeah, sorry. We have the 492.1 in there listed in the releases. Unfortunately, we don't have the 492.2 release. It's only a tag. So I get that's something you have to do, right?
Okay, no, that's something that the release lead should have done. And they don't have permission. They should have made sure someone else did it. Okay, so yes, thanks for noting that. I'll get it fixed. It's easy to fix. I just need to fix it.
Thank you, Mark. So I guess it's part of the roadbook or something.
It is part of the release checklist. Absolutely. It just apparently was not done either, because
I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, because
mistakes happen. But
yes,
it may be that Chris didn't understand the entry in the checklist or didn't complete the checklist item, and that's either of those is possible, and it happens. So
yeah, and I'll
it now.
Thank you, Mark. And I'll do lots of crazy mistakes when I'll be the release lead 2 weeks from now. So yeah, maybe I will add a few lines into the roadbook.
No,
because
Bruno, I see a 2.492.2 release.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, click the releases button.
I can see it.
Well, So I definitely can. I'll paste
Oh,
the hyperlink into the chat. Have you tried clicking this hyperlink? It was created by Kevin-CB, a member of the Jenkins security team, which is exactly what we expect, and it's got the right assets attached to it.
oh. Oh, it's because it's Jenkins CI Jenkins, and I was talking about Jenkins CI Docker.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at you're right.
My bad.
You're correct. And again, that is, I'll fix that. Sorry. Excuse my not paying attention.
No, that's okay. That was me
That
not being
also
clear
should
enough.
be there. And you're absolutely right. If it's not there, 2.492.2, that may just be missing from the release checklist. I'll have to look at the release checklist to see.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
I'll get that done.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
So the next one should be released the first week of April. I think the release candidate will be released next week. Will be available next week. Yeah, something around that. Now for the weeklies, the 200 and 500, what a milestone, and the next one, 501. We only saw dependency updates, or maybe something's changed because earlier the changelog was not really available. So yes, of course, I missed those one because the Docker image was not built yet when I had a look. Let me correct that. So update CLI, not that important. UB9, okay. And Debian. Of course, nothing major, just a few version bugs. Now, for the Jenkins agent, we had one new release for the SSH agent, 6.10.0, with only a few dependency updates, so Git on Windows, Debian Bookworm, and Alpine Linux. For the Docker agent, we had one new release. We had the merge of this PR, the remove unused from build SSH. That was a work from Hervé which removed the unused of.props file and the code which is associated. So it has been merged. We also have the actual makefile target. I think it's also Hervé who did that. We have also the add tags function to Dockerbag. Once again, Hervé, thanks a lot, Hervé, for your work. And the removal of the Linux agent only and Linux inbound agents only groups. As for the dependency updates, the usual suspect, Debian Bookworm, and the Jenkins remoting version. Now, onto the work in progress on images. For the controller, we still have the optimized Debian Docker files. I don't really think this one will be merged one of these days because it has already been reviewed, but there's still some more work to do, and I don't see it moving. It's kind of dead, so I don't think it will be merged. As for the Docker agent, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I think it may yet be merged because Damien has given some comments. I've not had the capacity to do the reviews of it. I think it's got promising piece, but you're right. It's not making progress right now. That's for certain.
But we're not in a hurry, so that's right. Also okay. But yes, you're right. My bad. Damien said earlier. What was it? No, not earlier. No, he said he didn't write it down into the PR. He just said it in the Jenkins infra, I think, or another meeting, whatever. For the Docker agent, we still have the fix assert. No, this one has been closed. What did I do? This one is closed, so should be gone. I think this one, Hervé, is working on it. Yeah. So we have been facing some problems since the migration, but I'm not so sure this is linked. In fact, you have a limit. You have lots of limits in Windows, but one of them is that if you don't have the right setting regarding the length of the path using Windows, you just have a hard limit, which is pretty slow. So we have to do something about that, and that's what it's all about for this PR. Mark, could you explain it in a better way than I just tried to do?
Sure. Yeah. So command line git uses some API calls that are limited to shorter file names. But it's been adapted to also optionally use long file names, and the NT file system, the Windows file systems are long file capable, but it requires an addition to the registry and setting of a Git option, and is not available in, if I remember right, there were some cases where it was not working. What they then found in the infra team was that command line git 2.48 has a bug, and it no longer honors this setting. So they've rolled back to 2.47 or 2.47.1, and long path checkouts are again working. Cool. So
Thank you, Carl.
very long, very interesting story, and sort of a dark, dusty corner of command line git.
Yeah, definitely. And there was this one, I haven't touched it in weeks. That was a small attempt to get started with JDK 25, which is around the corner, if by corner you mean October this year. But we have to start somewhere, and I figured out that this one wouldn't have many consequences, in fact, because it's not rebuilding anything linked to Jenkins thanks to JDK 25. It's just a packaging option. We have something that was built with JDK 21 packed into a Docker image with a JDK 25 available, and that's all. So this one could be merged one of these days, or I think I still have a few things to polish here and there, and we'll of course make some discoveries along the way. Because, for example, with Java 24 and 25, we have the JEP 429, maybe. We used to use JLink to construct our own shrinked version of the JDK. And with JDK 24 and 25, you can't use JLink the way we used to use JLink in previous versions of Java. You have to list the complete lists of the modules you want to incorporate into your custom JDK. A long time ago, up to Java 21, you just were writing all modules or something like that, and all the modules would be packed into the resulting JDK. That's not the case anymore. You have to choose from the 69 different models which one will be useful for your application. And for the time being, we don't really know which one. So for the time being, I have added only 3, but I know that won't be enough. That's just a fail fast something. It works on my machine, but of course somebody will find that it's too limited to work correctly. We'll see. And speaking of Java 25, we'll have to maybe create a help desk issue in order to list what we should do in order to get Java 25 for everybody, at least the early access, the preview versions. And we could even use what is it called? The subtask within GitHub issues in order to create some kind of Jira epic-like in the help desk. At least Damien isn't against it. Well, we'll see. And the last things for the Docker SSH agent, the work in progress, we have the patch to support audit the login UID immutability. I think it's from Kenneth Salerno. Yeah, it's been running since last year. We know it's almost ready to merge, but it still needs a review from Damien, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, thanks a lot, Kenneth, for your patience and for your work. Time will come when we will merge this. And the newest one we have is use terminal coughing on build X. The thing is, I don't know the exact label, the status of our relationship with Docker. We are, what is it, community project or open source project label? Mark, what is our status with Docker? Docker Hub. Oh, I can hear you, Mark.
Okay, so you mean in terms of Docker Hub and rate limits?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're investigating. Right now, there was a what they did was they did a clean, or they saw that the caching they were using on AWS was inadvertently caching a zero-sized file as one of the layers. And that zero-sized layer was wrong, flatly wrong. It wasn't, should have been non-zero sized, and they're working at it now.
Yeah. And being an open source project like Docker doesn't mean that we don't have limits. We have limits even for pro accounts. They have limits, so we definitely have to stay below that threshold and respect the rate limits. So they're working on that. And that's all I had. Is there anything you would like to discuss before we wrap it up?
Let's see, were there hardware topics that came out of Southern California Linux Expo? Trying to think. I don't recall any. No, so I don't think I've got any.
Okay, thanks. The only good news is that we may have a path to more memory for the machines donated or lended by Ampere.
Yeah, that we definitely have. We're now in the process of proving if it's going to work. But the Ampere people I talked to were a little astonished. Oh, they gave you the low end memory configuration, huh? Answer is yes, but they lent it to you, and we're delighted to be lent even that. That is wonderful. We will happily find ways to populate it with memory ourselves.
Yeah, so pretty cool.
Yep.
And we also have a machine that was donated by the RISC-V, I don't know how it's called, dev board program, something like that. And we have pretty enough memory, 128 gigabytes of memory, which is pretty cool. But the thing is, we won't spend too much time experimenting with that until we have a stable operating system, and a pretty decent or recent one, because for the time being we have Fedora 38, which is pretty old, and we don't want that. My goal was also to make that static Jenkins agent one of these days, but it's still for tomorrow, unfortunately. Time will come. Anyhow, I think we can wrap it up. So the recording should be available from 24 to 48 hours. Thanks a lot for your time, folks, and see you 2 weeks from now. Bye-bye.